Hey y'all, Regina of byRegina.com here, and today I want to do something I've never actually done on video before, and that is tell part of my story, which is about transitioning from having like a full-time income as a freelancer and consultant, even though I was holding down a job at the same time, and then transitioning into not having that full-time income because I wanted to build a different type of business, and then working back to a full-time income. So I want to kind of tell a little bit about that story. And this is as an introduction to the series going on my blog right now about making that transition to a full-time creative business. For those of you who've done that, you probably know it's one of those very meaningful moments in life, being able to build a business that you love. If this is something you're working towards, I really hope the video can kind of encourage you a little bit. And something special that I'm planning for later, something I'm going to tell you about at the end of this video, I'm really hoping that's going to help you in your journey to transitioning to full-time creative business work for yourself, working by yourself. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what this is not first. So first off, I just want to tell you, I am not a fan of and do not support and do not try and sell this on a beach mentality, where, you know, it's like, I'm sipping Mai Tais and, you know, I only have to work 2 hours a week and all of this greatness comes in. I'm not saying those things are not possible and that you can't build towards those things, but it takes a lot of work, and that's what I want to focus on in this video, in this series, in the special thing I'm planning for later, which I'll tell you about, and just with my work in general. I want to focus on the really solid steps that you need to take and can take to build something meaningful. And you will totally have those moments where you get to sip a Mai Tai or a frosty beverage on a beach somewhere and be making some money, or you'll be able to live a more free lifestyle with your time and all of that. I totally believe in that. I just don't want that to be the focus for anyone. I think the focus needs to be creating something purposeful, creating something meaningful, creating something that matters. And so that is where I'm going to be speaking from in this video, in this series, and then in kind of everything I do beyond this. So I believe in the beach. I just feel like there's a lot of work to get there, and that's what I want to focus on right now, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about my creative business life. I was actually doing a business. I had a business where I was doing freelance design and websites, and then I was also consulting people on how to start their own business from scratch. And it was really great. It made a full-time income. I still held down a job full-time, which was interesting. But I mean, I guess I was kind of scared. I was scared of transitioning full-time because I think in my heart, I knew I was doing something that I didn't love or that it didn't make sense for me because I wasn't charging enough. So the number of clients and projects that I had to take on at a time in order to support that full-time income was a little difficult. And I finally, towards the end, learned how to charge more and kind of, you know, structure my time a little bit better. But the reality was, at the time, it wasn't the right business model for me. I was working a full-time job. I didn't have a lot of time left, so to spend all that remaining time on client projects was hard to maintain over a long time. So I knew I was a little unhappy with where I was, and one of the things that I was doing that I really did like was I was teaching informal classes at the University of Texas at Austin. So adult continuing education courses. I was teaching a course on how to build your own WordPress website, and I was teaching courses on, like, you know, promoting yourself online and starting a business in Texas, and then just starting a business from scratch in general. And I realized I really loved doing it, even though, I mean, like, classic introvert tendencies over here. I was nervous as heck the first time, but eventually I got into it, started cracking a few little jokes and really having fun with the course. And I realized, like, I really love this. Like, could I do this full-time possibly? Is that a thing that entrepreneurs do, is like teach stuff? And at the time it was a really new concept to me, but I kind of started to do my research and look around and see, you know, there were people writing books on this. There were people who had websites and things like that. So maybe I could take this concept of information entrepreneurship, infopreneurship, and maybe make a living out of it. So I did something very scary for me at the time and decided to kind of transition the way I looked at business and transition my business in general. So this is about a year or a year and a half out from when I was able to go full-time again with my current business, byRegina.com. What I did was I stopped doing consulting and stopped doing freelance work for the most part. I still took on a few little projects, but I started to build this information-based business. And so the approach that I took was I want to have a really solid base to build from. So what I did was I took all the information that I was sharing in this How to Start Your Business from Scratch, and I had already kind of made this little binder manual out of it. And I thought to myself, man, maybe I can make a printed book that people can buy. Maybe I can even find somebody to fulfill the orders, print and fulfill the orders for me so I don't have to do that. But maybe I can make a printed book that has all this information in it, because I noticed I was getting the same types of questions from everyone. Everyone who was starting a business from scratch needed to know, okay, well, what are my business entity options? Do I need insurance? What's this I hear about XYZ? What should I be doing here? Then how do I actually do this? Is there a way for me to build my website without spending $7,000? All of these questions were the same questions. And so I decided to put them in the most logical order I could and make a book out of it. And it was a very difficult process. So let me tell you, the first thing I did was cut all the expenses and all the extra unnecessary stuff out of my schedule that I possibly could. I had a full-time job, so I wasn't able to cut, too much time-wise there, but I definitely gave away my bed, gave away everything I could think of, and moved to a smaller place. And then I actually did make the step of transitioning down to working only part-time. At the job I was working full-time, so I'd have more time to finish this book, and I wrote, and it was difficult. And let me tell you that I felt like a fraud when I was doing this, because I had made a full-time freelancing and consulting, full-time income, but then I transitioned down to taking on less clients, so I had more time. And so I felt like a fraud, because I was maybe making $10,000 or $12,000 a year for my business at this point, and I was writing a book on how to start your own business. And even though I'd started my own business successfully and started businesses like a cleaning business and other kind of stuff beforehand, I felt like a fraud, because I was living in this very non-affluent neighborhood. That's all I'll say about it. In a very non-affluent apartment complex. And, very small apartment. I didn't even own a bed, you guys. I slept on an air mattress every single night. By the way, that air mattress had a hole in it. So by the time I woke up in the morning, I was actually basically sleeping on the floor. So that's the kind of life I was living in. It felt very fraudulent to hey, I'm going to teach you how to start a business as soon as I get off my holy air mattress that's on the ground and walk into my, living room with basically nothing in it and pull out my old computer and start typing this thing. So it felt really fraudulent. But what I kind of want to encourage you about is, even if you feel a little fraudulent in the moment, know that the exact experiences that you've had and the way that you can word something and the way that you can connect with someone and the way someone can feel that connection with you, something beyond even our own understanding, really, I think sometimes. Those things that you just can build into your products, into your business, into your life just by merely being you, they're so very valuable, and they're going to make a difference for someone. So even if it feels a little bit fraudulent in the moment, keep going. It was very hard for me to finish that book. I felt, ridiculous. Also, it's just hard to write an entire 200-page book. But I finally did it. And you guys, it was a complete turning point in business, in my life, in the way I view things, everything. Because I was able to take that book and actually use it in so many ways. So it started making some money online. I sold it through byRegina.com. I used their, platform Create Space to actually print it and fulfill it for me. So it was making some money. I was able to use it in my seminars and classes that I taught, so it was making even more money there. And it was making a difference for people, because I think it was explained in such a way that people were able to track with this book. And if you know me at all, you also know this book had some worksheets and things like that with it. And now it's to the point where I'm writing a second edition and all of that stuff. But this book helped, because I also was able to take some of the chapters and sections and create blog posts out of them, or expand certain sections into whole courses of their own that I taught online, or that I actually taught in person as well. So it was something that actually I was able to take all these little seeds and pieces of information that I put into this book, and I was able to expand it into the blog that you may know now, byRegina.com, and so many other resources and things. So it was the best decision I ever made, was writing that book, not just because of the income, but because of what I was able to create out of it. And also the confidence you feel when you create a book or a course or something like that, and you've actually completed it, and in your heart it's helpful. It is an amazing feeling. So Anyway, so I created this book, and I was still not at the position where I was making full-time income, and I had to come to this really difficult decision, which was truly, truly, truly 100% transitioning my business out of consulting. I had to give up those last few clients and things that I was doing and really take time to just focus on the content and build what is now byRegina.com. So I started writing articles, I started preparing worksheets. I studied a lot, I researched a lot of stuff, and I really tried to build something that I thought was useful for people and something that I thought was easy to follow. And it took me a while to kind of just develop and use my voice regularly, as opposed to like trying to sound so corporate and professional and, ooh, I know everything. Like I didn't like reading articles like that, so I needed to develop a tone that was natural to me. And I really feel like that's another important thing is just pretend like you're in conversation with somebody who wants to hear what you have to say when you're writing, because I think that's when you come across as natural as possible. And this is coming from someone who truly, truly, truly is an introvert and is not all like, ooh, let me talk for hours on camera like I'm doing right now. That's not my natural personality. But when I feel like the information is important and I feel like I'm talking to someone who cares, then it's easier for it to come out in a natural way, okay? So anyway, I took some time to really build byRegina.com. I built it, myself. It did not look great at first. And it kept going through revisions, which is the curse of being a designer. You always want to change your own site a million times. But it was really meaningful, you guys. I focused on the content for months, just trying to create the best content I possibly could. And you may have read on my blog, or you may be new to it and have never seen it, but I was eventually able to create, within that first year of launching byRegina.com, I was able to hit that six-figure business mark, which was not my plan. I didn't think that was possible. I just wanted to start making enough to live off of again. But it was really amazing. So I was still driving around this crappy car. It was cracked in the front, dirty. I just didn't maintain it. It was old. I'd had it for about 10 years. And I remember it was totaled one day by this drunk driver in broad daylight, by the way. And I remember being upset, like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, no, I have no car. Life is over. So dramatic, right? And it was funny because this was after I'd been building this business by Regina for a while. And I realized, all of a sudden, I was actually able to just buy another car, and a nice one, for the first time in my life. It was this really, really weird moment in life where it was like, oh, wait, why am I stressing? Like, I've actually done the work and built a business, and now I can get a different car, and I don't have to drive around my old beat-up car anymore. Well, I couldn't. It was totaled. But anyway, you get the point. And so it was just kind of this, like, really, like, meaningful moment for me when I was like, wow, like, this is what you're building for. You're building for extra time. You're building for being able to add the content in the world that you really consider meaningful. You're building for being able to provide a better life for your family, and maybe even just being able to afford to do some of the things that you've never been able to do before. And so I believe in what you're doing. I know from personal experience it's possible. I know it's possible to make a full-time income. And then I know it's possible to restructure and hopefully make a full-time income doing something that you love and that doesn't stress you out or whatever it may be. So I've had that experience twice, and I really, really, really want to help other people make that transition to full-time work. So not only am I doing this series on my blog, but I'm actually making a call for interviewees. So for those of you who've transitioned to full-time, I actually want to come to your city and talk to you and interview you and pull out some of those key parts of your story, how you did it, the struggles, what method you chose to switch. Did you save up this X amount of money? Did you just jump in? What did you do? I want to come talk to you, and I want to be able to share your stories and my full story about exactly how I did it and all of that in an interview series that I'm going to actually share with our audiences and make available to the people who are trying to transition to full-time themselves. So anyway, calling for people who wouldn't mind me coming to your city to interview you about transitioning to full-time. I'll send the questions out ahead of time, but then we're going to actually chat IRL in real life, you know, side by side, get that talking out and talk about transitioning to full-time. And I really think this series is going to be super helpful. It's going to be like an online seminar, if you will, of people and some really, really great advice. You know me, I'm going to throw some worksheets in there, some kind of really opportunity to learn from it. So if you would like to possibly be interviewed for this awesome transition to full-time seminar of the world, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, that's a bad title, then head to byRegina.com/the interview, no spaces, no dashes, obviously there are no spaces, but anyway, no dashes, just byRegina.com/the interview, and fill out that quick little form there, and I'm going to try and actually get a multi-city tour going on pretty soon here, so I'd love to talk to you. And I promise the stories are going to be amazing. I'm going to tell my full-time story and give actual actionable steps for how to transition to full-time, to working for yourself full-time, okay? So thank you so much for checking out this video. It's just a snippet of my story, and I appreciate you listening to it. And obviously, if you have questions or comments, please hit me up on Twitter at byReginaTV or leave a comment on the blog, okay? Thanks, y'all.